Good evening, everyone. Welcome to kind of an extra Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones program for the 2025 year. This is a topic I am particularly excited about, so I'm glad to have so many people joining us tonight. Some of my favorite people are in the room here, which is like really fun. And yes, we've got wild ones, we've got master gardeners, we've got neighbors, we've got butterfly friends, we have people from Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy, we have some of our Kalamazoo Earth Day Committee friends. So this is going to be a really great time to learn about another thing that we can do to support wildlife. So, I am going to help present a little bit. Bart's going to let me interject a little bit on occasion, but everything that I know about ponds I've learned from Bart, so he's probably going to be able to tell you everything. I met Bart exactly a year ago. He is a Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones member, and on his own, he has been studying about wildlife ponds and learning about them and creating his own beautiful pond in his home garden. And when I found out that he was doing that, I do what I usually do when I want to learn more about something. I invited myself over to his house so that I could see it too and learn about it. And Bart has been nothing but generous with his time and his knowledge. And I think maybe from the first day that I went over to your house, we were like, we should do a program about this. Yes, Bart's agreeing. And so this idea started a year ago. First with Bart's pond, which was already created, and then with a pond at my own house, which is 10 months old right now and has been such a fun adventure. It is more entertaining than TV and Netflix. There is so much fun stuff happening already that we're going to show you pictures of. So I hope that tonight you are inspired to maybe start a home wildlife pond of your own. So without further ado, Bart.
Thank you. Reminds me, I told Quyen a little bit of college again, standing here and being a little nervous, but all that will go away, I'm pretty sure. Thank you. Like Quyen said, I'm Bart. I guess I label myself best as a nature enthusiast. I definitely have no formal background in, I heard, master gardening or biology or wildlife. But I think we'll prove tonight that you don't need to have that background. It's actually, as many of you know, remarkably easy to support wildlife in your, in my case, garden, backyard. And water is adding a whole new dimension, at least to my garden. When water came into play, magically all kinds of stuff started to happen. So hopefully we can show that to you tonight. Actually, I wanted to ask you first, who already owns a pond? Because I talked to at least somebody who already did. Oh yeah, I see, of course. I saw, I think, 5 hands. Okay, very good. Well, you are already supporting wildlife, so that's very good. And I think it's important to know that Quyen and I are not looking for a definition of a wildlife pond. I think every pond can support wildlife. Just some ponds do it better than other ponds. And it's about tweaking. If you have an existing pond, you can make maybe small changes, bigger changes. Or in my case, I already had a small pond. Just dig a second pond. Why not? But there is no good or wrong way to do it. Every pond, I'm sure people with ponds already see frogs, they see birds drink and bathe, and that's all great. You probably see dragonflies. So you're already doing great stuff, and water is life, so I think that's very important. All right. Before we start with ponds, I've been a dormant member of Wild Ones, so this is also a little introduction. Why am I gardening? In my case, I call it for wildlife. I do it, of course, with native plants. And I do it also for native plants because we're losing so much habitat, and I don't have to explain that to you. So these are my motivations. I'm pretty sure they align with Quyen's motivations. I think on the top is maybe the most important. It gives me a lot of pleasure, and after a stressful day, I really can de-stress in my garden. So a little selfishness is there as well. I just have a typical backyard, maybe a little smaller than, I know mine is smaller than Quyen's.
So yours is 0.25 acres, mine's
About
0.33 acres.
Okay.
Typical suburban lot.
Yeah. Definitely a lot bigger than my Dutch garden if I would have lived there, but so there's some good bonus there. What I'm trying to do, and many of you will probably recognize that, I do try to support as many insects, butterflies, moths in this case. If you add it all up, my garden is supporting about 2,000 moth and butterfly species in theory. The question is, will they find my yard? I don't know. We still might be like a needle in a haystack or a needle in a big desert, and there's Quyen's yard, there's mine yard, there's your yards.
There's the library's garden.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. The more yards we get, the more we can connect the dots, and we're building an ecosystem. I'm really trying to do that. Again, I also do it for my own pleasure, but definitely with supporting nature in mind. I'm not perfect. So there are some things going on in my yard, and I just throw it out here. Yes, there's hostas, there's vinca, there's a Japanese cherry, there's English ivy, and my front yard looks like a Home Depot special, so everything is happening in the back. Now, there is also a, no, let's do this first. So no professional background into, like I said, wildlife or gardening, but professionally I do work, and especially overseas, with a lot of businesses and industrial sites. And what we're trying to do with a team of people, we try to literally transform industrial sites into industrial parks, quite literally. Here you see a typical Dutch industrial site, probably not much different as the ones here in the States. A lot of parking lots. Actually, the weather was kind of gray too, so that helped contrast it a little bit. Not much green, a lot of cars parked everywhere. And we're working on energy, we're working on sustainability, on mobility, but a big part is also greening the places. And it's actually amazing. Many American businesses over there are often the front runners. Surprises me often. But we're putting in bicycle lanes, walking paths. We're putting in lunch spots with trees around it where people can have their lunch, where they can meet up. We're putting in retention ponds for rainwater, and we'll put native plants around it. All kinds of stuff is happening. It's not easy because all these businesses have to agree with each other, and then who's going to pay for it? All these things are, of course, in play. But we're doing this at about 20 to 30 business parks right now. So there is a way that I can also, through my work, contribute to nature and create good habitats. All right. Something else that motivated me to create a wildlife pond. You can see my house right there, where the smiley is. And I don't know, is everybody from Portage or knows Portage? Do you know Portage Central High School? So here's Center Avenue. This is the high school, and there's a wetland right here. And that was a very happy place, as you can see. Many frogs and birds, salamanders, all kinds of life. And also officially, it was designated as a wetland. This is on the city side, but also the state officially designates that spot as a wetland, and Westlake is right here. So it's connected to Westlake. 2004, I move in, everything is great. Great frog choirs and all kinds of nice sounds. Summers, we had to close my son's window because he couldn't sleep. That's how loud the frogs were. Hundreds, if not thousands of frogs. So it was awesome. I liked it. He didn't. But then, 2010 came around. New high school, great. You know, we need to go to school. But I didn't know, I mean, I knew the school was, you know, building a new school. But I didn't really know what was going on. I was probably not really interested enough. But I did notice that my son was a lot happier than I was because we didn't have to close the windows anymore. And I wondered, where did all the frogs go? Where did all the sounds go? Turned out, school created a stormwater retention pond right next to the wetland with a big, well, I'm Dutch, so with a big dike around it. You would think I would like that, but turned out it wasn't a very smart idea. And then on top of that, they started mowing the wetlands. So all the native plants that were growing there were mowed over. And a disc golf course was created, which in itself is great. I mean, people need to have recreation. But I don't know. I don't think that was the right spot. So suddenly, very quiet, and I think we lost a valuable habitat. There are still remnants there, nice pin oaks, buttonbush. Very recently, Quyen saw on the school Facebook page a Blandings turtle on school property, which tells you that animals are looking for habitat, and I'm sure it can find its way to Westlake, but hey, you know, it would have been a great spot for the turtle. So, and you can see how nicely mowed the area is right now. Now, you wonder, could we have saved the wetland? Yeah, I think yes. I think if, and I'm not blaming anyone, but I think if we had little time to think this over, we could have saved the wetland and maybe turn it even into a great educational opportunity. We could have put a bioswale in and clean the water with native plants. You know, instead of putting a big dike around it and drain the water, we could have strengthened the wetland. But that's, in hindsight, that's always easy, of course. But I think we could have done so much more. And I also think this is happening at many places. You know, this might be a small wetland, but we lost so much. There is a Wetland Protection Act, 1979 or so, that slowed down the loss of wetlands. But like you see, it's still happening, and a lot of it goes under the radar, I think. But then, 2023, I finally decided to put a wildlife pond in our yard. And like I said, a big motivator was to create a new spot for all the displaced amphibians, the birds. And actually, and Quyen can talk about that too, but within months, they came frogs, birds, dragonflies, damselflies. Really amazing how fast that all turned around. So that was really a big motivator to do. And Quyen, I recently heard about somebody, I don't know who it is, but he put a complaint in about the destruction of that wetland. So I don't know what comes out of that, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do a little. I will show you the pond.
So as Bart's pulling up his video, he does have his own YouTube channel, Bartman in Suburbia, and this was my first introduction to Bart's Pond, and he's great at compiling a video, but let me tell you in person, it is magical and extremely inspiring. So I hope you enjoy this.
Thank you. And actually, the drone footage, I see my friends Mike and Stacy, their son did the drone footage. So thanks again. All right, let's go back to where we were.
So you just started that in 2023?
Yes, so 2023 is in the spring. So March, early April, I think it was. And yeah, this is from last year, the film, the video. So in very fast time. It looks like it's always been there to me. I mean, not really, but that's how fast it goes. Yeah, and within months, and Quyen, well, we'll hit that too. Within months, I don't know how they find it, but they do. It's brimming with life. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, and I think also for the night or this evening, what we will try to do is we got a lot of, especially photos, we documented while we were building the ponds. We step by step we can show you how we did it. It's really not hard, but it's nice if you have, if you've seen it, because I don't know, we worked at your ponds for probably, I would say, 12 hours or so, maybe a little more, but.
So I will preface this by saying that Bart has a very, very strong back, and I did what I could, and we're very fortunate to have amazing neighbors who also came and lended a hand. So this is definitely a project for, calling all hands on deck, but within the prep work before and planting after took more time, but the pond itself was a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it doesn't take much, and the impact is, is there. So that's pretty nice. And actually, at the end too, who doesn't know, but you're all invited. This Friday evening, both our gardens are open for anyone who wants to visit. But the info will come later. I'll skip to this. Here we are. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Location. Location is very important, and I remember I went over to Quyen after she visited my pond very soon after. The question was, okay, when can you come over and check out my garden? And that's basically the first thing we did. We just walked around and looked at her landscape, and we looked where, the sun and the trees. And basically what is very important is sunlight. I would say ideally you get between 4 and 6 hours of sun. Stuff needs to grow. Aquatic life needs warmth and needs sunlight. That is ideal, but I also understand that ideal situations rarely exist. So you can kind of play around, but finding the right spot is probably the most important thing. Also, you see a few pine trees. Try to stay away as far as you can. They raise the pH in your water if needles fall in there. Unless you want a bog or something with black, dark water. But otherwise, try to stay away as much as you can. And trees, like I said, can play an important role in providing shade. The leaves, not so much. So if you do have a lot of trees around your pond, there is definitely a little bit of upkeep in fall to get the leaves out. But for a while, they float pretty nicely, so it's actually not so hard to get them out. But sunshine is very, very important, and we'll touch on that later, because if you have too much sunshine, you can actually create shade. It's hard to create sunshine, but it's a lot easier to create shade. Then size. This is about my size. Quyen's pond is a little bigger. I think for a Michigan pond, that's a pretty good size to start with. I would say if you go smaller, you can, but you might run in some problems because you want to go at least 3 feet deep, because we don't want our pond to completely freeze. I see a hand. Yeah, you can definitely go deeper. Yeah, no problem.
If your back is strong enough.
Yeah, and especially if you have a bigger pond, it's easier to go deeper as well. With a small pond, it's kind of difficult. If you have a small pond and you go deep, you have to find a way to not get too steep edges. We will see that in a little bit. Our ponds slope, so if an animal falls in or a frog wants to crawl out, we have gently sloped ponds, so any animal that falls in can also always get out. So that's a little easier with a somewhat larger pond. But yeah, you can go smaller. If you do go smaller, I would say try at least to go 2 feet deep. That might still, in mild winters, be enough for amphibians to survive. But ideally, 3 feet or more is definitely very good. And also, a larger pond will help with overheating. So the more volume you have, the more heat it can absorb. Overheating is not good. I don't know an ideal temperature, but I would say try to stay under 80 Fahrenheit. But we'll also see how we can address that issue if there is too much sun.
So when we picked a spot to put the pond at my house, it was kind of self-selecting because I don't have much grass left. I have a fairly established native plant garden, and the tornado last year went straight over my home, so mature trees were not an issue for me in my backyard. We didn't have any of those to avoid anymore. So I told Bart, if this is the recommended size, let's go for it. So my pond is 18 feet long, and I want to say it's 10 feet across. And then at the deepest spot, we measured down 3.5 feet,
Yeah.
as I recall.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you're right.
Can the length be like a kidney bean?
And-
Thinner, it doesn't have to be like a straight.
Anything you want. I see a lot of kidney bean shapes. I don't know. People seem to like it. It can be round. It can be a formal pond. I've seen beautiful formal ponds that are actually great wildlife ponds. So the shape is completely up to you.
Mine's going in a corner, so.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely definitely do it. Yeah, you can. Any shape is fine. So I guess that's subjective. Yeah. This is how I started. I had spray paint and then I had a water hose. I don't know. I guess I tried both things. But I just played around for a day and just tried to find a shape that I liked. And then actually I changed it while I was digging the pond. And this might be the least fun work to get the turf out of the way, but this is the work that you just start. You take the turf out, and then you slowly start digging a little deeper. And whatever you call it, I call this the well, the deepest point. That's my deepest point, and then here it's kind of sloping out. So whatever happens in the deep part, something can always crawl. In my case, up top there, that's a slope, and that's not so deep. And I guess that's a key feature of a wildlife pond, that you don't have really steep edges where if something falls in, it can come out. And I have a little pre-molded pond that I bought from Mike over there, used. And that actually has very steep edges. And I had several animals drown in there, like a possum fell in. And frogs do get in, but you need to actually put something in, like a log or something, so they can crawl out. But here the idea is to have slopes. And if it's a round pond, you can slope on every side, of course. So there's different ways to do it. But my deepest point is what I call the well. That's, in my case, 3 feet, and in Quyen's case, 3.5 feet deep. And this is the big secret. The subsoil. So do you guys know the subsoil? I mean, if you're gardeners, if you dig deep enough, you hit orange or yellow kind of looking soil. That's more the porous soil, less nutritious soil, and that's very important for a pond. So as you can see, this is my pond. We'll soon see Quyen's. We'll save all the subsoil, and that will be the secret to make your pond look really natural. Because if we put in the liners, and we will show that in a little bit, we reused the subsoil, and we actually lined the whole pond with a 2, 3, sometimes 4-inch layer of subsoil. And this is contrary to what we think. If you put soil in a pond, you think, oh, that's going to be algae and that's going to be big problems. Actually, it's poor enough that it will not put nutrition in your water, so algae will not benefit from it. Stacy.
Bart, I want to hear your thoughts on how you were good at separating your soil from your subsoil.
I'm going to repeat that question just so that everyone can hear.
Yes.
Stacy said, how did you determine and where did you separate the soil from the subsoil?
Okay. I guess it depends a little bit. In my case, it was very obvious. I think 2 spades down, it was there. It was just like, there was no question. It was yellow, orangey, so it was very clear. So the topsoil I reused somewhere else in the garden, and I remember with Quyen, we had subsoil almost right away. So
I basically live on a sand dune, so there's just a little bit of that rich, dark brown soil, and underneath it almost immediately goes to sand.
yeah. So I don't know what's going on in your garden.
Yeah,
but
what's happening down the street?
You guys all built your ponds further away from your house. And I built mine a little closer for a different reason. We didn't really build it for ground. Because there was disturbance from the house being built.
Yeah.
There was a lot more rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm just going to repeat what Stacy said for the video also. So the area that she selected to dig a pond was very close to the house, and so probably there were things planted there in years past, and more turnover and more activity there. So for her, it was harder to determine where the subsoil started. So
Yeah.
it will just depend on your location.
Yeah.
And all around Michigan, right? Like.
Yeah.
Some people here have clay, some people have sand. So yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's backfilled there when they were building the house or something like that. And if that happens, again, the only solution that I have is less fun. But maybe if you go deeper in your yard and dig a hole, you might hit subsoil, and then you fill that up with the richer soil that you found. But of course, it's more work. But the good news is it's probably a one-time job. But yeah, that could well be. So very important, keep your subsoil. We'll show in coming slides how to use it. This is Quyen's yard. You see the pile of subsoil right there. And believe it or not, we'll touch that too. This is her liner. They delivered right there, I believe.
Yes. So I asked Bart to tell me all of his secrets, and I think I ordered the exact same liner that he did, just so that we had enough to go from edge to edge and down and up again. So it was even a little larger than necessary, and I do have some spare pieces of it left, but it's very, very, very heavy, and so when they delivered it, it was on like a pallet jack, and fortunately, my husband was home, and they took pity on him, and they took it all the way back to the backyard because, it was, something to keep in mind.
We'll hit that very soon too. Who we are digging. Left with a B is my pond, and then where the Q is Quyen's pond, and Mike and Stacy are in there too with their son. So here you see that our ponds are getting the shape, the well, and then the slope. So here you see how we did that. And
Yeah,
actually,
I think that picture is really interesting because it does show a little bit of the difference between the shapes of our ponds. On the left, you can see Bart's is more like an avocado, and then the well area, the deepest area, is kind of the pit, whereas mine really is more kidney bean shaped. And then one side is the deeper end and one side is the shallow end. So they both work equally well.
So in the well area, on yours, it's undercut there? Is that
there's a reason.
No, it goes straight. It goes straight down in the well there.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
And then you'll see in the next step what we do to
Yeah.
keep that shape.
And actually, another thing, so when you're measuring your pond, it's like length and width. You take your most extreme points, and I could give you a formula, but forget about it. We're not going to do that. You just go online and you Google for a pond calculator, and you put in your width and your length, and it will give you the exact size of the pond liner that you need. So, and actually after we're done, you can download this straight to your phone, so you will have all that information. But you don't have to do anything difficult with calculators and stuff. So just measure the extreme points of your pond, so the depth, the width, and the length, and that will tell you if you put it in your pond calculator online, and there is like many, and they're all giving the same outcome, of course. But that's a little trick to do.
Did you have a question, Elaine?
Did you need any permits from the city in order to put this in?
Oh, Elaine's question is, did you need any permits from the city?
No, not in Portage. I don't know about other cities.
Required to have a fence.
That's a good one.
The question was, are you required to have a fence around it? And Bart and I actually did have a long conversation about this the other day.
Yeah. So I cannot find a requirement. I even asked my insurance. No, but with everything, common sense should rule. I would say if you have children or grandchildren, I would definitely do a fence around it. And I've seen fenced-in wildlife ponds with actually, you can make it nice. You can make it look natural as well. It doesn't have to be chain link. I hope. But I think common sense is very important. So you don't need, in Portage, you don't need a permit for sure. And fencing, yeah, like I said.
But your
sense.
backyard is fenced.
My backyard is
Mostly fenced.
Mostly fenced, but yeah.
And my backyard is fenced all the
Okay,
way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I said, safety first with these things. So yeah, if I had little children, I would either wait or fence it in. Yeah. All right. Well, here's the process. So this is step one. I think this is my pond actually.
Yeah.
So when we're digging, we're checking also for anything like glass or sharp stones. And before we do anything, we make sure that nothing is, there that could poke through your liner. So before we put anything down, we have already been, feeling around, touching. Everything sharp is removed. Also a good reason to stay away from trees a little bit, so no roots, can really encroach on your pond. And then what we did, and I know Stacy actually did a very good thing as well. Instead of doing like an underliner, I think you did old clothes and rocks and whatever, and you can do that too. I mean, that's a lot more responsible than buying. Oh yeah, okay, very good. Than buying new stuff. So that's definitely a solution as well. What you see here is basically a way to make sure that your pond will last a lifetime. So that's why we use the better pond liner. It's called EPDM liner, and it's basically the same stuff that they use on roofs, on flat roofs. The big difference is that the stuff they use on roofs has a lot of chemicals in it. They'll take those chemicals out and they certify it safe for use in ponds and aquatic life. So that's what you see at picture 2, and it's going around. It's a very thick rubbery material.
But the under is first.
Okay, so that goes around now. So the underlayment, we just did like it's basically not much different than a weed barrier. I'll show you in a little bit the guy who taught me to do this. He uses synthetic fleece. I've been looking, couldn't find it. But he's also in Great Britain, so maybe it's a little different there. But we opted for this. So First layer is the underlay. I call it underlayment, but weed barrier, whatever. So just if there is still something that could poke through, this will hopefully stop it. Then the second liner, the second is basically the pond liner, the EPDM, and it's going around. It's very thick and rubbery, and it's actually very hard to poke through. It's a great material. And the other good thing about it is that it's very UV resistant. So we will actually bury it completely. So you will have no part of the liner being exposed to the sun, but if it does, there's not great harm done. And then on top of the liner, we do an extra layer of, in this case, the weed barrier. Because you see, we started already putting rocks on. So as an extra protection, making sure that the rocks can't damage the pond liner. So you have 3 layers, and this should last a lifetime. I mean, I can't give any guarantees, but there is definitely different ways to do it. And we'll hit the budget pretty soon as well. Of course, the EPDM is the gold standard, is also more expensive. If you go with more like a plastic or a vinyl, always check if it's rated for pond life. It's definitely cheaper, and I can totally see that for people that is the way to go. But it will last not as long, probably 10 years, 15 years, and then you probably have to redo it, which could be fine if you know that you're not staying in a home for a long time, or you have doubts that the next person will keep it up or something like that. Yeah, why not? Go another route. But what we did is more the gold standard. In 10 years, I hopefully don't have to mess with it. So that's why we did this. This is Quyen's yard, exactly the same process. So first, the weed barrier, the underlayment, then the pond liner, and then an extra layer of protection.
He just said that really fast, like it was super easy to do, but that liner is very, very heavy. So there was a lot of adjusting and readjusting. You can actually see my husband in the background. He was in a boot at that time with a full Achilles tendon tear, so he was not allowed to be participating. However, he was, because it was very, very heavy. So adjusting that and getting into place, there's definitely some finagling that needs to happen.
Yeah,
he made it sound super easy. I'm just telling you the truth.
No, you're right. You do want to take your time. You want, as you can see, there are some folds, and you want to try to get as few folds as possible. So you kind of, pulling, and then somebody at the other end is doing the same, and I think it probably took us a good hour or so to get it where we thought, okay, this is pretty good. So yeah, it's heavy, and I did mine alone.
I told you, he has a really strong back.
I was pretty dead that night, I can tell you. But yeah, you're right. Well, and here you see the secret, like I told. Here, the subsoil is being applied. So what we do, we got our 3 layers, and now we're scooping back in all the subsoil. So here we're starting. I guess that's me. I'm already putting some rocks in. So the rocks are actually lining, I would say, in my pond, I would say it's lining the well, but the rocks are very important because you get all these little crevices where frogs and if you get salamanders like to crawl into and can also escape if they feel danger or whatever. So you have all these crevices, and in the wintertime they can crawl in there too and find a little spot to hibernate. So that's what I'm doing right here, and this was not to keep order tonight, but while I'm doing that, I'm actually tamping all the subsoil as well, so you got a good, solid, compacted base, and so there was a lot of tamping going on. And we're trying to get as much subsoil in there as possible. Oh, and by the way, we've been in touch with museums. Quyen and I did a archaeological find, We actually found out that the Romans were first. Here's a Roman vase. We found it. We dug it up. Of course, wishful thinking. That's actually my only Home Depot thing that's close to my pond. But we tried to trick you.
That's Bart's sense of humor.
My daughter says I'm a little nerdy. So.
Did you have another question about the artifact?
I'm sure it's worth millions.
Millions, yes.
How thick is the soil that you put?
She asked how
Yeah.
thick is the subsoil that you put back in?
So it first of all depends how much subsoil you have. Like Stacy there didn't find much, but ideally 2, and at some spots if you can reach 4 inches, that's great, because when we're putting in plants, water plants, they have some soil to root, and it gives a completely natural look. So if you have a pond where you see the liner, you always immediately know it's, somebody put it in. And that's why maybe you also thought when you saw my video, somebody asked, was this only a couple of years ago? But also because we do the subsoil and plants have places to grow, roots have places to go. So that gives you the real natural look of a wildlife pond.
The question is, have you had issues with the turtles that one did?
Okay, did I have issues with turtles that want? So, easy answer, I did not have turtles yet. Yeah, turtles would be kind of destructive, I believe. I think you saw 2 mallard ducks earlier. They landed near my pond, and I have to admit I chased them away because they were in my pond and they were doing everything that ducks do. So they were eating the pond plants, and they were, let's call it what it is. They were pooping in it, and so there is better spots for ducks. And if you ask me, unless you have a very large pond, I would say there's a better spot for turtles. So although everybody is welcome, I kind of hope they skip my pond. But yeah, they could be destructive. Yeah, for sure.
Another question here?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, when you're talking about 3 feet deep, did you go a lot deeper than 3 feet? Because now you gotta stand in layers of
Yeah.
rocks. And so that's like a foot there with the rocks and everything. So
Yeah.
did you actually dig down 4 feet?
So good question. I did go a little deeper to adjust for the subsoil, but here you can see this is my deepest point. So this is 3 feet deep. I did go a few inches deeper, but then on the top, well, we'll see that in a little bit too. You can add a little soil as well, so you can raise your pond as well. And I had to actually do it. It was no problem with Quyen. My garden is a little bit on a slope, so I had to put a board over my pond and put a level on it. And I had to re-level. So one side of my pond, I raised it a little bit with subsoil to make it even. But yeah, a very good question. If you can, what is a few inches when you're doing it? But I would go a little deeper. The rocks doesn't matter because, as you can see, this is still the deepest point, and there is no rocks on the bottom of the deepest point.
So then the other thing I would add to this picture here is that I had the large rocks already in my yard and just repurposed them from bed. They were bed edging, and they were randomly scattered in the landscaping, and collected them all next to the area where we knew we were going to build the pond. And Bart was in the well, and then he'd peek up over the edge and look at the rocks and say, like, I want that one, and then I'd go get that one for him and bring it, so that we were fitting it together so that flat sides are touching, or maybe so that they intentionally are not touching, so that there's space in the crevices. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we knew it was deep enough because I knew how tall I was. So. This is Quyen's pond again, and here you can see that you don't see liner anymore. So you see that all the subsoil is now covering the liner. And what you can also see is that we made a little beach, and the idea is that this part will never be covered with plants. So there's always an open area where birds can land or hop into the water, drink and bathe. So we can do plants all around, but the idea is like, hey, this is a little beach. Animals can always, find a spot to easily walk into the pond. And of course, it's just filling up. So the water is, when it's totally full, it's covering the beach as well. But here you can see that you get that natural look. You still see a little liner because I think I'm starting to cut it there. But you see I'm cutting the liner, and we're immediately putting subsoil over it, immediately covering the liner so the sun will never touch it and it will never degrade, and you get that, like I said, that natural look. So that's actually the core idea of building the pond. Again, we're cutting the liner immediately. I think Quyen was with a shovel filling it up right away. And in the middle, you see we're actually filling up the pond.
So we used water from the hose to fill up the pond in the beginning, so that Portage City water, and then we used a piece of the remnant liner just to make sure that as it's filling up, we're not washing away all the subsoil underneath it.
Yeah.
Trying to avoid stirring up the water too much, although it did look a little concerning at first. And I thought, does this guy even know what he's talking about?
Of course not. Here again, so this is Quyen's, I call it again a well, but this is how we build all the rocks, tempt in the subsoil, and then you see the end result before planting, and it's filling up. This is an important moment. Here we're throwing in, actually literally throwing in, one of the most important pond plants I think you could put in a pond. Hornwort is an oxygenator. You can almost not have enough of it. It grows pretty fast too, but very important. It provides shade. It kind of goes to the surface of your pond, so it kind of floats just under the water level. So sun rays cannot really penetrate the water, so it will stay cool. It's a great hiding spot for tadpoles and other insects and water life. And when the sun is shining, you actually see it fizzing. It's very interesting. You see the oxygen escaping from the plant. It's like a soda almost. So it's really a very hard and tough worker in your pond. And then Quyen's hand there is holding a little native water lily, and we're planting those as well. Water lilies are also very important. Rule of the thumb is that you want to hide about 60-70% of your surface level with water lilies and hornwort to keep the water temperature at a steady level and provide enough shade and also spots for frogs and tadpoles to hide.
Now I can't remember, is there duckweed on another slide?
Duckweed is on the other slide as well. Yeah. All right, so this is the guy I learned everything from. This is Joel. He's the guy from Britain I talked about. So I don't know how it works with YouTube, but this wildlife pond was on my mind, and then suddenly he showed up in my feed.
You must have said it out loud three times.
Yeah, I must have, exactly. They were listening. Joel he's famous in Britain. Here you see him with Sir Attenborough. He's interviewing him. As you can see, he put in like 100 wildlife ponds. He does it all over the country there, even internationally. And I watch his movies. I remember it was winter. I binge watched like 400 videos he has, and everything you saw is what he does. And so we're standing on his shoulders, and he explains on whose shoulders he's standing. He's interviewing actually the people who taught him to do it this way. So that's pretty neat. So if you want more information and in-depth information, I mean, I don't get any kickbacks, but look him up online and subscribe to his channel. He has so much more information about wildlife ponds, and he does a lot more with native habitats. But I wanted to mention him. And I sent him some pictures too. And now I don't know if you guys have WhatsApp, but once in a while he asks me how the pond is doing. And we even called up and talked 2 hours about wildlife ponds and stuff like that. So that's how it goes.
So Bart recommended this channel to me too last year when I was first getting started, and I did not watch all of the videos, but I did watch a handful of them, and I would say, kind of going back to the question about shapes and locations of ponds, even though this is in Britain, you still see like how the ponds are situated with houses. You can kind of see how the sun goes. You can see examples of different shapes and different setups. And so it's a great resource just to see wildlife ponds and kind of get an idea for how one might fit in your space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but I didn't watch all of them.
One of the things that Joel is very famous about is the dragon perch. So I got that from him. So here you see basically a stick over the water, and the whole idea is that dragonflies like to land on a perch. They're perchers, and they sit there and they're scanning your pond, and they're looking for hopefully mosquitoes to catch. So putting a perch around your pond, or even 2 or 3, will attract the dragonflies, and they will literally sit on there. And as you can see, birds like it too. Out of my experience, I get a lot more birds, not necessarily more rare species, but just more birds, and they stay longer, especially in the middle of summer when it's hot and dry. A lot of birds I noticed kind of go away to the lakes and the marshes, and now they know that there is a permanent body of water in my garden, so they tend to hang around a lot more, and I have more nesting activity as well. So I hope to see more rare birds, but that's hopefully in the future. And a lot of things, garter snakes, yeah, they will eat frogs, but we need the whole ecosystem, because sometimes I think I have too many frogs. Sometimes I count like 20 frogs, and so I'm actually glad that the snakes are around as well. So, to get that balance, you really want all these animals to visit your pond.
So I would agree with that also, that I see a lot more birds and that they stay longer in my yard. They're using the water to drink, and they're also using it to bathe, and it's adorable. So that is one of the fun things happening in the new pond.
For sure. And now this one is sounds like an open door, but there have been many times that I was very mad at myself, thinking that I had a leak in the pond, that I didn't do it right, that I had to start all over. Suddenly my pond level was down so much, and I really thought there's a leak, there's a hole, and I started frantically checking everything. I couldn't find anything. But eventually it's evaporation, and it's pretty brutal at some times, especially when it's dry, when it's a little windy, when the sun is shining. It's amazing how much water you lose. And I honestly had a few times where I thought I was in big trouble. Now I just know how it goes, and I also think it's very natural for a pond to go up and down. The critters don't care, the frogs don't care. When it's totally full, it definitely looks more attractive and nicer. but when it's a little lower, it's totally fine. And I'll show you how we get water into the pond. And Quyen has some interesting stories about that as well. But yeah, this is one of those things that I learned along the way. And everybody with already having a pond knows about this. For me, it was a little spooky at some times. And actually now, when it's so humid and still hot, but I lose less water than, say, early spring when the air is so dry and the sun is already a little bit beating on the water and it's a little windy. Yeah, it's amazing how low you can go almost.
I have never spent so much time thinking about when it's going to rain and how to capture water and how many inches of water are coming, and then doing calculations of square footage times inches of rain to figure out how much water I could catch. So just be aware that may be one of the side effects of building a pond in your yard.
Is flooding from a lot of rain ever an issue? Have you ever had an overflow issue?
Is flooding an issue? Do you have an overflow issue? I repeat. I think it's great if it overflows, because when you have damp, loving plants around your pond, we'll talk about that. That's great because they will love that water. Again, we both have very sandy soils, so it's never really pooling up or anything. It's disappearing pretty fast. But personally, I like those damp spots around the pond. And I also think, I have no science, but I think if it's a little bit more damp around it, it's nicer for the frogs as well to travel out of your pond, because they kind of like that dampness, and they do hunt. They don't always stay in the pond or right at the edge. So I think it's a good thing. I don't know. You're still trying to fill it up.
I'm still trying to fill the pond all the way up. I haven't succeeded in getting an overflow even yet, even with all of the methods that I'm using to capture the water, because it does evaporate. But I would agree with that the plants love the extra water. And so because the pond is in the middle of the yard, it's not next to the house, there's really nothing else that it can affect.
So, what's interesting is what Quyen says, how do you get water into your pond? And like Quyen said, I did the same. My first initial fill was with tap water, and that's fine. But tap water is fine for us. It's not so good for aquatic life. As you know, it has chlorine in it. And chlorine disappears in 2 or 3 days, but it can still do enough harm to frogs or tadpoles. It has a lot of nutrients in it, phosphates, nitrates, and algae just loves that. So if you constantly fill up your pond with tap water, you might get some problems. So what my solution is, I use the water from my roof. I collect it. I'll actually show you here. And you probably know about this, but I've got a little rain collector. This is my shed that you see on the bottom right. I have a little rain collector, and that water hose goes directly into my pond. So I collect the water from my roof. Quyen has a small problem with the tornado. Quyen?
So Bart is collecting water off of roofs that have existed for a few years. Because of the tornado that went through last year, our roof is brand new, and so there are still chemicals that are leaching off of that. And the research that we did said to wait at least 2 years, 3 or more is even better. So I'm not collecting water off of my house for the pond. We're collecting a little bit of water off of a newer shed that is a resin shed. And then I have set up this beautiful tarp system, which I use to help me collect more water. My husband put T-posts in, so there is something very secure to attach it to. And if there's rain in the forecast, then the tarp goes out. And it is literally like in a V and draining down directly into the shallow end of the pond and landing like on the shallow rocks there and collecting the water.
I thought it was very smart, yeah. So if you can do rainwater, do it. So if you have newer shingles, wait a couple of years. If you have a metal roof, you're golden, you know, that's fine.
Bart had said to me, well, maybe you could ask one of your neighbors if you could collect water off of their roofs. And literally every house surrounding me has a new roof.
Yeah.
So that was not possible for
Yeah.
us. So the tarp will do. Before the program started today, we were talking about some other ways to possibly and permanently capture water, so I don't always have to watch the weather. Eventually, obviously, I will be able to capture the water off of the roof and drain that out towards the pond. But in the meantime, I'm also thinking about putting a French drain in. We have a cement patio in the back, and I was noticing the other day, when it was raining very hard, it takes a long time for the water to drain there, and so that might be a good opportunity to catch rainwater, which I had never really thought about before.
There you go. You get
Yep.
a lot of innovation going on when you have a pond. This is my pond. I think this is first year. This is summer. You can see a bee hotel as well. That was there first. I built that because I had to cut down a tree and I wanted to repurpose the tree, so I made that bee hotel. Kind of found out that a bee hotel and a pond is a perfect match. It's actually a small ecosystem by itself. Early spring, the bees appear and they go for a drink at the pond where the frogs are waiting for their first protein snack. So the frogs get their first protein, but luckily there are enough bees to sustain this. So you get protein for the frogs, the bees can drink, and the bees find this perfect mud around the pond edges to seal their tunnels. So what I've been noticing is a lot of traffic between the bee hotel and the pond. So I didn't plan it, but hey, that's how it turned out. So those are little things that you find out if you sit there long enough and watch what's going on.
Maybe I'll work on Bart to do a program about bee hotels for next year.
This is my pond again. This is actually the photo we had at the beginning. I think this is the second year. All right, so everybody knows Where's Waldo, right? I mean, I didn't grow up with him, but I guess you guys did. And it's fine if you guys move more closer to the screen, but there's actually a little prize attached to my question. My question to you is, how many frogs can you find in this picture? And for the person who has it right, I hope it's one, otherwise we have to break a tie. There's a little prize, but there is more than one, I can tell you. All right, so I heard 5, 6, 7. Yeah? Okay. Well, here's the big reveal. Now it's easy. There is 6.
Who said 6 first?
I heard 2 6s here in the front row. There is one bonus. There is a dragonfly there.
I suppose they had an advantage.
So yeah, you have to show everybody what it is, though. It's a field guide to recognize dragonflies. So, this is just to show how fast it goes. In no time you have, and this is 6, but at times I count 15, 20 frogs in my pond, and as many tadpoles. And green frogs actually stay in your pond the whole winter, and then the next spring and summer they start transforming into a frog. So. If you like fish, I would say tadpoles are kind of a constant factor in your pond, so who needs fish, right? I mean, you see tadpoles all the time. But yeah, this is really how fast it goes. And I heard when people walking in, I heard somebody talk about salamanders. That's my ambition, to get salamanders in the pond. That hasn't happened yet, but And I also heard that salamanders and frogs don't go very well together because the salamanders are kind of aggressive and try to eat all the small frogs and the tadpoles. That's what I heard, but I don't know. This is my pond again, just to show what Quyen said. If I sit often, like after work or whatever, I easily spend a couple hours just sitting at the pond, and only then do you see what's going on if you concentrate on what is happening in the pond. But it's just to show that at every time of the day it's beautiful. This is at different times, and it's adding so much to your garden. And before, I did sit in my garden, but not as much as I do now, because it's always beautiful, and people who live at a lake probably know better. But this is my little lake in my garden.
Did you introduce the tadpoles, or did they just show up?
Did I introduce the tadpoles, or did they just naturally come? No, the frogs came. They found my garden and the pond. Might have been. Like I said, I had a small pond already with goldfish in it. That attracted some frogs as well, but they're not really happy when they notice that there is fish in a pond. So that might have helped. But Quyen, her pond is now 1 year old, and well. Explain, she has everything in there already.
Yeah, so last year when we dug the pond, it was August. I know that I already had American toads in the yard. There was at least one mature one that we would take turns scaring each other. So I knew that it was there somewhere. And then I had occasionally heard gray tree frogs and taken pictures of them on my cup plant, so I know that they were in my yard already. And I said, but Bart, where are the green frogs? Because they're the ones that live in the water and you can actually see them, whereas the toads and the tree frogs will try and hide from you. And he said, don't worry, they'll come. And I did not see any the first year. Again, this is August, and then it started getting cold. And then this spring, I sent Bart a text like, the green frogs are here. And so the telltale sign was I was walking around the pond looking at it like I normally do every day, and I heard a very suspicious plop into the water. And then that was my hint to start looking for them more. So there's been at least two who have been living there who I can see. And they are so much fun to watch. They swim around, they float, they climb on the banks, they sit on the rocks. Endless entertainment. So Bart was right. They did find me. Now I live not very far from here. I'm also off of Center, but I'm in a suburban neighborhood. I know that there are pools in my neighborhood. I'm really not sure that there are even other ponds. So how they knew to find me is just one of the magic things about nature. But I'm very pleased.
I don't think science figured that out yet, how they find it. I heard actually a story about a guy either in New York or Chicago with a huge wall around his small garden, and he had a frog in it. So I don't know how they do it. This is my budget. As you can see on top is the liner. Again, that's probably your most expensive item. And then everything else is very doable. But again, I can totally see if people say, hey, I'm not going to live here forever or whatever, or I have a different budget. I can totally see that you're not going with the EPDM liner. But again, I wanted to show you what my size pond entails budget-wise. And the good thing is you never need a pump or filter because we're soon hitting the planting. A wildlife pond with a lot of plants and a lot of roots in the water will actually create a balance, and it will clear and filter your water. And actually, pumps and filters will do a lot of harm. It will trap tadpoles and all kinds of creatures in those filters and kill them. And chemicals, of course, you don't need them. And that will do probably more harm than good. Fish is debatable. I love fish. That's why I have this little fish pond as well. And fish have their place. So I chose to do a second pond without fish. I think it kind of depends on the size of your pond. If you have a very big pond where the survival rate for tadpoles is just a lot better, go ahead and put fish in it, because in nature you have fish as well. But I think in a small pond, the fish will probably be winning the rat race and eat about everything that's living in there. So, but again, that's debatable. And still, a pond with fish is great for wildlife as well. So, well, Quyen's budget, not much different, but Quyen, you had already the rocks.
I did have the rocks already. I did have a lot of the native plants already. And I do work during retail sale days at Hidden Savannah, so I work for plants, and so that is how I sourced a lot of the stuff for the pond. I did end up purchasing some baskets and tried different things in order to plant into them. Talking with other people who had ponds and even people who are observing in nature what some of the plants that I selected actually do. Some of them can be quite, we don't say aggressive because they're native, they're enthusiastic. So if I wanted a pond with only pickerel weed, great, plant it and it will eventually take over. I chose to plant it in baskets. It did not overwinter very well, and then it did eventually die, so it didn't really like that. So I'm not against the experiment, but for me that didn't work. At this point, I only have a handful of things in baskets, and the rest of it, I'm just going to let it go and see what it does. There's some Tory's Rush that I have in the floating baskets, which is very fun to watch, and it floats around the pond. And that can be quite enthusiastic as well, and so that is contained for now. And then also on that handout is the lizard's tail, and that I was told can be quite enthusiastic as well, and so that is also in the containers, and that's it. So take it or leave it. What else is on that list? A grabber tool. So that's like the, so you don't have to bend down and pick things up. I don't have a skimmer, but I just have that tool, which I use to get things that fall in. I have a 3-year-old niece, so, she throw things in there sometimes. And fish leaves out and things like that, but I don't have very many mature trees, so that's not an issue. And then before I had the pond, I did not have a rain barrel, and so I did purchase one of those as well.
What's the question?
Mel wants to know, have we had any trouble with raccoons?
Yes, I did in year 1. Yeah, I had a whole family come to the pond, drink, which is all fine, and then they tend to swim in it. I know
adorable.
because I had like a little wildlife camera, and I know you have one too, because I wanted to see what was all going on. So they were swimming in it. Hardly any damage though, but do I prefer it? No, because again, they might do something that the ducks were doing in the pond. And then somebody must have called animal control or something, because the next year they were gone. So hopefully not because of my pond, but so I had them, they would visit, swim in it. But I noticed, because some lily pads would be upside down, but they really didn't destroy anything. So again, that might have to do with maybe the perfect size. Smaller, maybe they do more damage. But yeah, lately I haven't seen them. Today I had a deer at my pond. I don't know. It drank from it, so that's good.
Another question? Oh. Go ahead, Kira.
Do you get a lot of mosquitoes?
We'll touch that.
We'll
touch
get to
that.
Kira's question. Hers is
Yeah.
about mosquitoes.
Yeah, I expected that question at the beginning.
And then
You had the question.
I'm just wondering,
the smallest pond that you could do. I think it doesn't really matter. I've seen barrel ponds where people with balconies or whatever do a barrel pond. In the winter, that might be a little difficult. You might have to put it in a garage or whatever. So you can definitely go smaller. The only thing you have to look at is the depth. The smaller the pond, the more difficult it is to get enough depth in your pond. So if you do go smaller, I would say do it. Try to hit at least 2 feet of depth and make sure that you have sloping edges. As long as you do that, you're fine. I've seen little mini ponds just for frogs and toads in gardens. So, yeah.
I'm going to point out we have less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll speed
so
it
we're gonna try very hard to keep ourselves to
We'll
the time.
speed it up. Everything from here, the plants you also have on your list, but this is kind of an idea how to plant wildlife pond. I'll start with the oxygenating plants, and actually we touched on one already, the hornwort. That's a very important one. Like I said, when the sun hits it, you see it fizzing. You see the oxygen actually released from the plant, and it shades the water as well. Your water lilies are very important. Your floating plants. So try to get at least 60-70% of your surface covered. That doesn't work in year 1, but year 3 probably you will reach that.
So I got the lily pad. I don't know if you say tubers or corms. And Bart said 3's probably good, and I said, okay, I'll get 6, because I'm very anxious to have the lily pads. And man, I leaned over the edge of the pond and took the little tuber thing and just shoved it into cracks in random spots around the pond. I'm pretty sure that I either texted or emailed Bart when the first lily pad popped up, and that was 4 weeks ago, and I've got at least a dozen little lily pads. Also so adorable. It's so exciting.
Yeah. You got your marginal aquatic plants, so they're still in the water, but they're on the edges, and that's where they like to grow. And also great for frogs to hide and to wait and to hunt. And then right outside, you have either your damp-loving plants. So somebody asked about overflowing of the pond. Great spots for damp-loving plants. And then you have your nectar and pollen plants to support, of course, bees and butterflies. And great spots also for grasses, reeds, and sedges. So you can plant so much around your pond. And almost everything, in my experience, will grow there, and even faster because it does overflow, so there is more water. So this is a general idea, and I will go very fast because that's on the list, so I'm not going to talk about it. You can read on your list. But these are the plants that I, and most of them Quyen has as well, put in. And most native plants, I think everybody is familiar with Savannah Hidden Nursery, so great source. And I actually sourced some off Etsy and even eBay if I couldn't find it here. So, well, you got the list, but if we didn't have enough, you could download it. So, all right. So, right at the beginning, we talked a little bit about location, and I said, well, you can make shade, but you can't create sunlight. Well, here you can see how just playing with plants, you can create a lot of shade if you need it. So here I have a giant Joe pieweed, 6 foot tall, and that creates a lot of shade already in combination with the lily pads. And then I have some more taller plants. So your plants right around your pond can help you create that shade. So that's, if you have too much sun, no problem. It will take probably 1 or 2 years for these plants to grow, but you can create the shade. And if you did it wrong, take them out, put them somewhere else. You can play around a little bit and experience what works. So I think that's important. We'll skip these a little faster. this is just to show how much life your pond attracts, but we'll go a little faster. We talked about this plant. You see it here. It's coming to the surface. If you buy one plant, I would buy that one.
Yes, he's showing it again because he's told me again and again.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important one, and you can't have enough of it.
Yep. More frogs. Dragonflies. More dragonflies.
The dragonflies have been amazing. I have seen them in my yard before, but I've counted at least 7 species this year that I've been able to identify. They definitely use the dragon perch, which I have, and they take turns, sitting on it and guarding the pond and trying to scare the other dragonflies away. It is amazing to watch them hunting and circling. Endless entertainment.
And that's already part of the answer for your question about the mosquitoes. Three-way sedge, it's my favorite sedge. Why? Because when it comes up, it kind of looks like bamboo when the shoots come up. I just like it, so it's a personal favorite of mine. Hop sedge, and that's a skipper, I believe. I wrote it. Yeah, it's a Tony Edge skipper. I had to look that up. But,
Is that true, Rhonda? Probably? Okay.
I'm not insulted if it's not. More dragonflies. Nymphs. You see this when you literally sitting at the pond. You see it happening. I'm sorry. This is a damselfly, a dragonfly. Quyen found that. The DNR has a nice little poster about what lives in the water. But,
this spring when I was watching little aliens swimming around in the water, I was trying to find something to help me identify what it was. So I definitely had the damselfly, nymphs in there, and they're very interesting.
More creatures, more dragonflies. That's actually a mosquito, a rare find, actually, because these creatures will actively hunt the mosquito larvae, and your tadpoles do as well. So, do you get mosquitoes? Yeah, every garden does. This was something we left for last, but you definitely don't get more mosquitoes, because a balanced pond, the dragonflies, the frogs, these nymphs are actively hunting for mosquito larvae and adult mosquitoes. So yes, I have mosquitoes in my garden, but not more than before, and maybe, but no science here, but maybe even less. But I can't prove that.
Yeah, my observations are only anecdotal also, but this year when I'm gardening in my yard, I would say there are less than there have been in the past.
That's great.
And that's my experience.
Your pond, a diving beetle larvae. They look very
Look
funny.
at that alien. That's so crazy.
Green frog tadpole, that's how big they get. So they're pretty large. And you constantly see them swimming around. This is the adult diving beetle. Ferocious hunters as well. They eat tadpoles. They eat all kinds of things they can find. And you have many, but you need them. You need them to get that balance. Frog spawn. And it's actually hard to find it. They're very good at hiding it for some reason. And also sometimes when the sun hits the pond, it's hard to see. So they're smart about it. Here's a young green frog. You still see a little bit where the tail was attached. A late tadpole already has legs. Those have legs too.
Come on, that's so cool.
Well, Quyen, this is your circus.
Yes. So this is at my house. Like I said, I knew I had American toads in my yard already, and I was looking for eggs, and I never found them. But one day I looked in and saw thousands and thousands of these little black tadpoles. And so the internet says that they are American toad tadpoles, and I did my research, and a female American toad can lay between 2,000 and 20,000 eggs. So absolutely wild. They're just swimming all over the place. And then I had Jessica come out to my house, and she said, there's at least 2 clutches in here, because we had 2 different sizes of tadpoles by the time I even noticed what was going on. So it has been so fun to watch them. I have seen some of the young toads, so that's my hand, and you can see how absolutely teeny tiny, itty bitty, but perfectly formed little toads there are. I walk very gingerly around my yard now. I really want to see ones with the tail and the legs, but I haven't seen that yet. Jessica says that they go from a tadpole to a frog super, super fast, so I haven't seen that yet, but they're hopping all around my yard. My neighbor's chickens, I'm sure, are enjoying some of them. And so then you can see, on the end, they're in the shallow end, they're in the deep end, they're having a grand old tadpole party.
This is your yard too?
This
Great
is
tree frogs?
at my yard also. Tree frogs. They have this fascinating, whirring, whistly call. And it's hard to say how many I have, maybe only 5 or 6, but they are calling each other from about 9 o'clock to about 11 o'clock, just having a great time. And that has been very fun. And if you sit by the pond at dusk, they'll come out from wherever they've been hiding and find their positions around the pond so that they can, echo their call off the water or off the rocks, or some of them choose a house so they can bounce their sound off the siding. Is that Colin telling me I need to stop talking? And there have been tree frog tadpoles in the pond also already.
I'll go a little faster. I'll skip this one. More life. More life, snails. More life. Back swimmer. They can pinch you really good. A water strider. This is something personal. Some people don't like it. My philosophy is you need to have decaying, rotting stuff in your garden for insects, and frogs like to hunt around it. So I have buried log piles, and sometimes I do see a frog around it. Maybe termites will find it too, but I don't do it next to my house. So some people will not do it, and I understand. But I'm just not trying to clean everything up. So that is a way to get more insects close to your pond. Winter, this is optional. I do it. I've got a de-icer. So there's always a way to get gases out of the pond. I think you will be fine if you don't do it. If you do, I just choose to do it. And I found out that actually bluebirds are very smart. They are the only birds that I see drinking from the hole in the middle. No other bird does it, but they do it. So they must be pretty smart. But you need electricity, of course, to feed it. Maintenance is very, very limited. I hardly do any maintenance. Sometimes you might get some algae, especially in the spring, or when your plants are not tall enough or you don't have enough lilies. You just scoop it out. You check it if there is any nymphs or larvae in there, and just as an extra safety, you put it on the edge of the pond. If something is still in there, it can crawl out and back into the pond. I just use a spring rake, and because we have that extra layer on top, you will not poke through your liner, so it's safe. I've got just a regular scooping net as well. What I don't like about it is sometimes, especially the damselfly larvae, there's so many, and then you want to take the algae out, but there is still so many damselfly larvae in it, so you're really working like an hour to get them all out. So I prefer the rake if I can use it. So there is less chance of scooping up larvae with your algae. This was one of the last slides, the elephant in the room, of course. I expected that question right away, so a little applaud for you guys. That's the first thing normally that I get. Whoa, what about mosquitoes? I already told you. I think, well, I don't think, but I'm pretty sure that you won't get any more mosquitoes with a wildlife pond, and most likely even less mosquitoes. If you do want to visit our ponds or gardens, coming Friday between 6 and 8. If you scan this, you get more information, so I'll leave it up for a little bit. And that basically concludes our presentation. And maybe if we meet in 2 or 3 months, I'll find some people to put in more ponds. We'll see how that goes. So thank you very much, and thank you, Quyen.
So Bart did a nice job of adding the QR code here. All of the information about Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones programs and garden tours is on the website. Like I said, you do not have to be a Wild Ones member in order to join us for garden tours. It is a great way to learn about planting with natives. This particular one is our 2 yards so that you can see how the ponds are situated, what his looks like a little more established, what mine looks like less than a year old, just to kind of give you an idea of things to expect. So you're welcome to that or any of the other Wild Ones programs that are happening through the rest of the year. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thanks.